What up, gamers, and welcome to the Meta Report. Just to give a brief overview of the meta before we dig into each composition, guys, we are in a 4-cost meta. It's real. It's real. It's been so long since we've been in a 4-cost meta, but it actually is one. The ham-fist approach of just buffing every single 4-cost actually worked. There are some reroll comps you can play, but they're very minimal, very niche. So mostly in this video, we'll be talking about 4-cost meta. We're going to be using Meta TFT right now. I have looked at all the other stat websites, tactical stat tools, and also, conferred with TFT Academy and stuff like that. But I just found it'd be easier just to go and use Meta TFT right here and sort by pick rate, so the highest pick rate, and then we'll dig into the stats and talk about how good these comps are, what are the indicators to play them, so that you guys can best use them to climb on this patch. That's what we always do on the Meta Report. We do this shit every week, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, now, you see these tiers. This is like an algorithm that creates these tiers on Meta TFT. I don't necessarily agree with these tiers, and we'll dig into that in a second, because the first composition we're going to talk about is Heavenly Kayn. I have a whole separate video on this. I'll leave it in the end card of today if you want more in depth, but I will try to talk about this as much as I can here. It has it listed as an A tier, for example, but I believe this is the best comp on the patch. Like, not even close to me. This is the best comp on the patch. Now, the reason why it's an A tier rather than S tier is because the pick rate is so high. It's so high, and that takes down the stats of everything else. That's why it's in the A tier, because the pick rate is so high and the win rate is pretty low. But that's just because this comp is so good that it's triple contested every game. It's also extremely easy to play, extremely easy to pilot if you're uncontested. But the composition is so contested, and this comp is just very good. So what is this comp? This comp is you're just playing Kayn and Morgana duo carry. Most of the time you will trio carry a Lee Sin, but sometimes you will not. And the goal is to go fast 8, roll for the comp, and get 6 Heavenly in to finish out the game. As soon as you hit Wukong and you're able to go 9, this comp just goes straight Giga. The 6 Heavenly threshold is extremely strong. All these units are just so strong in this setup. I mean, guys, if you fight a Kayn, it's just crazy. Anyway, so what is the indicator to play this? This is a fast 8 composition. You do need to eventually go 9, but you're going fast 8 to roll, because if you don't roll on level 8, when you go fast 8, you will never be able to compete for Lee Sin, Kayn, and Morgana. Those units will just be out of the pool. So yeah, we're going to go fast 8. So what is the indicator to play this? I actually think the best indicator to play this is if you open up the game with like an AD, frontline AD carry style opener, something like a Darius, something like that, and you have a BT, you guys know, something like that type of setup, or Heavenly opener with like Kiana, with a Kiana pair, and you have like a Sterex, that can be a good indicator. But additionally, since the comp is so contested, with a pick rate of 1.4, that means 2 people are contesting it every single game. And from my experience, usually there's 3 people angling Heavenly at the beginning of the game, every single game. So I think the actual best indicator is an economy augment. So something like Patient Study or Raining Gold, and you just maximize econ to get to this level 8 roll down. Now, you don't want to be like super low, like you're not guaranteed to win out, but because you do need to go 9 eventually. So you don't just want to sack your whole game for a level 8 roll down with 20 HP left. So you do need to win at some point, but ideally you're going to have to get an economy advantage to ensure that you're able to hit the Kayn and the Morgana and the Heavenly board, because it is that contested. So the board you're actually going to look for is this exact board here. So all these units, this exact board. And then this is the level 9 board, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is level 8. Let's go to, wait, what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What is missing from here? Oh, Malphite is missing from here. Malphite is missing from here. So you do want to get to 6 Heavenly. Now, later on in the game, you can start swapping things out for legendary units, like hyper late game, especially if you can go level 10. But for the most part, you just want to hit that 6 Heavenly threshold. It just juices Kayn and Lee Sin so hard. So on level 8, if you do hit a Wukong and you don't have items to carry a Lee Sin, then you can just play Malphite for sure, and then get that 6 Heavenly. And then if you do have additional carry items, they just go on Wukong rather than a Lee Sin, then Lee Sin can be your level 9. And that can be quite good. Lee Sin is a beast. So let's talk about items a little bit here. You want healing, Last Whisper, Hand of Justice you want Edge of Night, Last Whisper, and then some healing is usually what we want on Kayn, but his items are actually pretty flexible. And then Lee Sin, just leftover 80 carry items. Wukong, leftover 80 carry items. But, set up like they have on here, like Sterex, BTE, and Hodge, that's pretty good. But additionally, you can also go items like Blue Buff because his mana is so low. And then augments, the augments that really juice this comp are going to be things like Not Today is extremely good, but it's just... It's not very good to take super early on in the game. But the best augment in this comp is Little Buddies. taking this on 3-2 or 4-2. It's so good. It is the juice in this comp. And additionally, other than that, just like frontline AD carry augments, like, you know, like Inspiring Epitaph and stuff like that, and you'll be good to go. Yeah, I don't necessarily recommend Gargantuan, but it can be really good. And stuff like that is going to be good to go. Just frontline AD carry stuff, and you are good to go. All right, next up, we're going to be talking about Porcelain Ashe. So this is actually like an Invoker Ashe build. So this build I think is pretty difficult to play. I don't necessarily recommend it to everybody. But the idea of this is you're going to be playing around Nautilus, Annie, Amumu frontline. And then your backline is going to be, Mythic backline. So you're playing Ashe as your main carry, Lillia as your secondary carry. And then you have Lux, Azir, and Kog'Maw to support the rest of the comp as well. And then your level 9 is Lissandra. Obviously, if you hit Lissandra on level 8, you played over Lux. And then so the composition is you are playing around 4 Invoker, 3 Mythic, and 4 Porcelain is like the core of it. And this is quite good. Extremely good when you have an emblem, because it'll allow you to hit 4 Porcelain without having to hit Lissandra. And then the emblem will go on to Annie or Nautilus. Usually Annie will get the Porcelain emblem. And then if you want to, you can like dip deep into the vertical of Porcelain. If you get multiple Porcelain emblems, you can get 6 Porcelain. Forget about it. You're winning the game usually. So you'll be good to go there. Items on Ashe, you want to have a setup that looks just like this. Actually is very good. So Gwynsu's Last Whisper +1, and the +1 needs to be IE, Deathblade, and can be a Giant Slayer, but ideally you want a raw AD amp item. And then on Lillia, you want mana generation. Blue buff is going to be your best, followed by adaptive, followed by Sojin, but usually you need your swords for Ashe and stuff like that. And then you want a damage item like Rabadon's JG or Archangel. Usually Rabadon's or Archangel's can be your best bet. +1, and the +1 can be a JG, can be a Guardbreaker, can be a GS, can be a Gunblade, can be a Morello even. If you want to do that. Now, Annie does have built-in healing reduction, but it is still always good to have healing reduction go to your backline. And then additional places to put your items, off-tank items on Nautilus, main tank items on Annie. And then if you get extra AP items, you can itemize Lissandra or Azir. Obviously, you can play Janna before you hit Azir, and you can be good to go there. Yeah, this is a really strong comp if you get online. It is very difficult to play. It is hard to play. Hey, if you have the means to, and you want to help support me continuing to do what I love, which is make these videos for you guys, then consider becoming a member. Thank you. Back to the video. All right, next up is Bruiser Kai'Sa. Now, we just talked about a composition that is difficult to play. I think this composition is really easy to play. I actually just first placed a game of playing Bruiser Kai'Sa. So you want to play Bruiser Kai'Sa whenever, usually it's like you have like a Story Weaver opener and you can tempo with that. You can play around Story Weaver Bruiser. It's really easy to move into this composition. Additionally, you can also play around Ghostly to move into this. I just find Story Weaver is a little bit more consistent. And then you can just slam items onto Sivir, like AD carry items on Sivir, and you can actually slam AP items on Teemo for mid-game tempo. And you'll be good to go. And yeah, so that's pretty good for mid-game. Story Weaver is great early game. Play around that, and then you go 8, roll it down for the Kai'Sa, move your items over to Kai'Sa, put in 4 Trick Shot as soon as you hit a Xayah and 4 Bruiser. Pretty easy. And then if you want to upgrade the comp, when you go 9, you just add an Udyr, and that'll naturally give you Ink Shadow. The best Ink Shadows are going to be Toxin or Protection. Those are going to be the best ones for here. So especially if it's one of those, consider playing Ink Shadow. And the way you actually cap this board is you actually get out of most of your Bruisers and Story Weaver and Trick Shot, and you play around 4 Dragonlord. There's a legendary board that you play. I have a video directly on this. It's a fast 9 Kai'Sa build, but it's still like the same build that you cap on. It's 4 Dragonlord, and you play around like Udyr, Ornn. You can keep the 2 Bruiser sometimes, but you ideally want to get the 4 Dragonlord and play like a Azir backline with Kai'Sa and Xayah. You get out of 4 Trick Shot, but you know, that's a little bit confusing there. But ideally just play for the 4 Bruiser and then add the Udyr. But if you really want to hypercap, start swapping out for Dragonlords and Behemoths, and you can keep the Bruisers if you need to. Be good to go there. So talking about augments and stuff, or let's talk about items for Kai'Sa. This exact setup is great on Kai'Sa. So you want to have Last Whisper IE, and then it's +1 after that. The +1 can be Spear of Sojin. She's great with a lot of artifacts like Monazane and Collector. And then additionally, you can play like GS or whatever. Don't think too hard about the third item. You just need these 2. And then Xayah, just same types of items, balls to the wall damage. Rageblade is not a good item on either of these units. But if you need to build a Rageblade for tempo, for example, I played a game last night where I played Rageblade Rune Ends on my Sivir, and I 100 streaked all the way until level 9 because that item combination is broken on Sivir, and that's fine. And that's why I ended up playing on Kai'Sa. I played Rageblade Rune Ends, Deathblade, and then I had real items on Xayah, and it was fine because I just got so much tempo, and then I was able to hit my whole composition. One thing that's cool about if you end up slamming AP items onto Teemo If you get the trick shot augment where you get the additional bounce, then Teemo's just a beast and you can leave the AP items on him. But when you start to transition out of 4 trick shot, when you go level 9, you're trying to do the Dragonlord setup. If you end up keeping bruisers like Silas and Galio, you can just move the AP items from Teemo to Galio and it is quite strong. So that's another little tech that you can do with that. Just talking about augments. Yeah. Lucky Ricochet is busted in this, but ideally you want to take this on 3-2 or 4-2. If you end up taking it in the early game, it's okay, but it's just way more valuable the later you play it. And then other than that, just general combat augments, you're going to be good to go. Little Buddy's obviously great in this. Jeweled Lotus is pretty solid in this. Well Fed is good, actually. I actually really like this augment in this comp. Blistering Strikes is great because you don't have to worry about building a red buff or something like that, which is kind of difficult to build with the item economy because you need to build Last Whisper as well. So yeah, so Blistering Strikes is great. Even Epitaph is great in this because it scales off of HP, so it'll shield your bruisers. Be good to go there. Next up, let's talk about Faded. Just Faded in general. This is like more of an Ophelio style build. So generally when you want to play Faded is if you have an emblem opener or a spat opener on a spat portal, this would be a great comp to angle to play, especially if you open the game with like a 2-star Arya, 2-star Yasuo. Look to play this. If you have an emblem, it's really easy because on level 7, you can easily fit in 5 Faded. You can even sometimes fit in 7 Faded if you just high roll hitting a Syndra on level 6 or level 7. So level 6, it's really easy to hit a 5 Faded with the emblem. But if not, when you go level 6, if you need the tempo, roll for 5 Faded and carry AP items on either Ari or Kindred. It's easiest to carry on Kindred because she is a little easier to sell if you're not going to play into 7 Faded because Kindred or Ari will hold your Syndra items. But in game, you have to have Ari in your comp. So just know that, but item hold either one of those. And then AD items will go on to Aphelios. Now, if there is nobody contesting you, you can stay 7 and roll for an Aphelios 3. However, there's not a lot of rerollers on the patch. So if it doesn't look like you're like hitting a lot of these naturally, I think it's usually best to just go level 8 and duo carry the Syndra and Aphelios. And sometimes like I won't even carry Aphelios if I don't get items for him. And you can dip more into like play around like more like 4 Warden, 4 Arc, 5 Faded, especially when you're at 9. That can be something to look for. But if you get a Faded emblem, you definitely want to dip into the vertical and go into 7. Typically, you'll put the Faded emblem onto a tank like Ornn is going to be great for you. You can do something like Nautilus as well. That is acceptable. And then if you get a second emblem, it goes on to Ashe. And you could be good to go there. The Faded bonus you want to use most of the game is still going to be Yasuo Thresh. And then late game, you want to do combinations of Syndra plus something. So Syndra Thresh is good. Syndra Set is good. And then if you're carrying an Aphelios, you could possibly do Syndra and Aphelios. But it's usually better to be Syndra Set. It is going to be super good. They did buff the Syndra buff on this patch. I think it's very good. And then talk about augments and stuff. The Faded Crest, yeah, it's just amazing here. And let's look at anything else performing super well. Just general combat augments are going to be good to go. Anything performing super, super well? Just want to see. Not really. Nothing really sticking out. But in general, really, you just want Faded Emblem. I mean, you guys should know how strong it is to play with around Faded Emblems. Be good to go. Next up is, I don't know why it's called Arcanus Amumu. This is like a Porcelain. I played this comp yesterday, actually. You're just playing around 4 Porcelain, 4 Arc, 4 Warden. And you want to look to play this when you get any of these emblems. So if you get a Porcelain emblem, an Arc, or a Warden emblem, it's very easy to play like this setup, and that combination of the 4-4-4 is really strong. And then you can eventually dip into a 6 on one of these ones. If you get multiple Porcelain emblems, you start playing the 6 Porcelain build. You don't necessarily need to play the Invoker style build, but if you get multiple emblems, you definitely want to dip into Porcelain if you get to choose. And anyways, this setup is a Syndra and Ashe duo carry. I find it to be very good. I played this last night. It's pretty fun. Just looking at, let's talk about items, I guess, a little bit. We already talked about Ashe. You guys should know Syndra's items. It's going to be blue buff plus AP item. And you can put the Porcelain emblem on her. It's kind of like having a Nashor's, which is cool. So, but if not, put the Porcelain emblem on a frontliner to make them more tanky. I like putting Porcelain emblem on Alawi, but sometimes I do put it on Syndra, especially if I think I'm going to go into the 6 vertical. Be quite good there. Not really much else to talk about this. Play this when you have one of the emblems and duo carry these 2. Good to go. Next up, this is like a Dragonlord Azir. This is not like a real comp. This is like, I went level 9. So if you go fast 9, shocking guys, Dragonlord is really good in the late game. So if you go fast 9, you just roll for a 4 Dragonlord board and play around Ornn, Udyr, and then play Azir and Hui duo carry. Pretty simple, guys. This is the fast 9 AP build. So yeah, so if you have like a Fortune cash out where you're playing around AP and stuff like that, you can go for this. Or if you just have an augment and you're tempoing real hard, you can go fast 9. Pretty simple. Roll for Azir, Hui, duo carry, and then 4 Dragonlord plus Udyr, Ornn. Easy. Cool. Next up is the Dryad Gnar Kindred duo carry. I actually have a separate video I made just on this. But yeah, I wish it would show a level 6 board, because the level 6 board is what's most important. Level 6 board is just you're going to play Aatrox, Gnar, Kindred, Shin, Alawi, plus either Kayn or Ornn. If you don't have an emblem, if you don't have a Dryad emblem and you hit an Ornn, it is always going to be best to play Ornn. If you have an emblem, do not put it on Kayn. I don't know why it recommends it. Put it onto Alawi or Aatrox. If you're going to 3-star Aatrox, it goes on Aatrox. If you're not going to 3-star Aatrox, it goes onto Alawi. The 3 stars you are looking for are Gnar, Kindred, and Rek'Sai are the most important. Also, it doesn't have Rek'Sai on here. Sorry, I misspoke earlier. You need to have Rek'Sai on your board. I don't know why it shows it like this. But yeah, these units plus Rek'Sai, and then either Kayn or Ornn. I wish, I don't know why it shows it like that. No Rek'Sai. But anyways, yeah, so the idea of this comp is you want to have 2-star Dryad units on stage 3. So on 3-2, you want to roll for 2-star Kindred, 2-star Gnar. Hopefully you should have a 2-star Rek'Sai by then. Maybe get a 2-star Aatrox, but it's not necessary. And then just get the Alawi on your board. I don't know why I said Shin. Shin does not belong on this board. Shin does not belong on this board. This is level 8 though. On level 8, Shin can belong on this board. The goal is to go, sorry, I was thinking level 6. Sorry if I'm being confusing. The goal of this composition is to get to level 8 on 3 stars. So on stage 3, want to roll for the 2 stars. And then on stage 4, we're going to slow roll at 50 for 3-star Gnar. And then by 5-1, we want to have all of our 3 stars and be able to push to level 8. That's the goal. And once we have level 8, we will add Ornn and Kayn will be on our board for sure. And then additionally, we either have Shin or Morgana, just whatever one you want to put on there, whatever makes sense. And we will have 4 Dryad. If you get a Dryad emblem, then when you go level 9, Azir will always go on your board because that'll give us 6 Dryad. If you have multiple emblems, then you already can have 6 Dryad and Azir doesn't necessarily need to go there. If you're only going to be playing around 4 Dryad, then Azir does not need to be on your board. However, he can definitely go on there just as a 5 Dryad. But things like Lysandra is going to be great for you there. Just random legendaries, Lysandra or Udyr is going to be awesome. Now, augments, this composition is actually very augment specific. Mulched on 2-1, so broken. Very, very, very good. This comp really is enabled by augments, and it's one of the few rerolls that's actually pretty good on this patch. So Mulch is super good. Dryad Crest is like it's not as good as you would think. It just makes the game less awkward on level 7 and level 6. It makes it really easy, but you do not need an emblem. But emblems are great. If you can get 2 emblems, then it is really broken, because if you can get 6 Dryad, forget about it. Gargantuan's okay. It's actually not as good as you might think, and we'll talk about itemizations in a second. Heavy hitters is like Biss, especially if you get this on 3-2 or 4-2. Things like Epitaph are great as well. Things like Little Featherweights is great, not Little Buddies. Tiny But Deadly is great. Baboom is actually super, super, super good, but I don't think this is an indicator to play the comp. If you get this on 3-2 or 4-2, it can be quite good. I would not take the Reaper-based augments. It's just not it. Silver Reel is pretty good. Combat Caster is really good. I'm talking about this comp a lot because I've played this comp a lot. Martyr is super good. You stack HP. Gifts of the Fallen can be good, but you definitely want to take this on 4-2 because you just don't benefit from it very much until you start pushing a lot of levels. And you'd be good to go. Let's talk about itemization, because the items that I recommend for Gnar are usually wrong. So as I was talking about, like, Gargantuan is not as good as you think. And the reason why like Gnar became so busted whenever they buffed Gnar as composition for Titan's Resolve is because everyone's actually building Gnar wrong. You don't actually want to have BT Titans. Like, that is good. That's great. What's a better build actually is BT Titans. Or if you have 6 Dryad, BT Sterak's Titans. Like, that's actually way better. So just know that. Prioritize actually BT Titans. I could dig into the data right now, but I did that in a separate video. But just know that is the tech. And then after that, the other items that are really important are going to be Morello plus a mana generation on Kindred +1. That's going to be great. Blue buff is the best. After that, Adaptive, and then Sojourn. But Morello is Biss on her. And then other places to put items, putting a Redemption and an Even Shroud on Rek'Sai and placing Rek'Sai next to Gnar is great. If you don't get a Rek'Sai 3, then you want to put those items on Alawi or Aatrox and position allowing Aatrox right next to Gnar, so you have the Ghostly procs all on the same side. And then we're going to cap this board by going into the Ghostly vertical or going deep into the Dryad vertical, and you're good to go. Very easy comp to play. Invoker, Lillia, I think the best version of Lillia is actually the Ashe duo carry comp. But if you get emblems like Mythic emblem or Invoker emblem, just dip into either of those verticals and then just build a bunch of damage on Lillia. If you go into 6 Invoker, you do not need a mana generation item. However, blue buff is still great even when you're doing that, because it just reduces the entire cap, and then also the effect that blue buff has where you deal more damage after getting a takedown. So you can go for that, and then you'll just main carry Lillia, main tank Annie, get in Mythic, you're good to go. You can cap on Azir carry. GG. Next up is Janna Reroll. I don't think this comp is very good. I think most of the time when you're playing Janna, you just want to go fast 9, especially because not a lot of people are rerolling anymore. So it's just a lot harder to hit the comp. I actually think playing around Dragonlord, it says medium. I think Dragonlord and Sage is probably the hardest line in the game to play because you just have so many different outs. You have to consider in mid game, like mid game, it's like really easy to carry a Janna, but then you need an additional carry. Usually the second carry is never Soraka. She's just not that good as a secondary carry. But like mid game, like you need to find another carry. It's usually Zoe. It's rarely Zyra unless you're rerolling Janna, but Zyra is not very good. And then sometimes it's a loon. So I think this is like not for a beginner. I think this is a very hard comp. And then look for items like this setup is fine, like Rageblade, Sojin, Archangel. It just AP items and some mana gain, some way to gain mana, like Gwynsu's or Sojin or Adaptive. Sojin or Gwynsu's are going to be better than Adaptive because of how Dragonlord works. And then tank items onto Diana. She's great with Adaptive Helms, but this type of setup is fine as well. Have some type of magic shred in your comp. And then you can like side tank stuff like Galio and that sort of thing. You'd be good to go. Yeah, I think this is really hard to play. Actually, Fast 9 Irelia, I don't think this is real life. I think if you go Fast 9, you're better off playing around Xayah or just Azir. But if you end up playing this and you don't play around Xayah, that's fine. Cool, I'm not going to talk too much about that. Heavenly Yone, don't play it. Ghostly Senna, this is not as good because again, there's less rerollers. But if you do get the whole comp online, you hit everything 3-star, it's still pretty good. I think the best indicator to play this is if you have the Giga opener, like, you know, you have the opener to play it, you have good items, and you don't want to push to level 8, and you have like Tattoo of Protection. Like Tattoo Protection is very, very, very good. It's going to make you very strong in the mid game. And so that's like probably the only time I'd look to play this. Because in general, if I had this Ghostly opener, I'd probably just look to play Kai'Sa because I just want to go 9, man. But yeah, so the win rate is pretty low in this because it's just, if you're rerolling, it's hard to go 9. So that's pretty tough there. DLord Kai'Sa, we already kind of talked about this, but yeah, this is the Dragonlord build. This is what you want to cap on when we play Bruiser. So if you're able to go fast 9, like I just said when I was talking about Irelia, if you're able to go fast 9, you're usually better off carrying Azir, Kai'Sa, and Xayah. Like that's just way better than going for something like Irelia. It's just better. So this is like, if you're going to go fast 9 and play this, you have economy augments, whatever, or fortune and go 9. And this is also, again, this is the comp I talked about earlier. This is what you want to cap on. Next up, Story Weaver. I don't think Story Weaver vertical is that good, but if you want to play it, triple blue, pretty good. Kog'Maw rerolls, just not that great. It's pretty niche. You need to have the augments to play it. Real augments. Dragonlord Diana, like, yeah, I just don't think rerolling Dragonlords is that good. I think going 9 is way better. And again, you're just less likely to hit because less people are rerolling now. Ethereal Blade Shin is pretty good. Yeah, play it. Go dip into Behemoth or Ghostly. You'd be good to go. Yeah, like a Rageblade GS +1 is probably pretty good. And you'd be good to go. Arcanus Vertical, I actually think is a lot better than it shows here. I think it's a really good comp to play, especially when you have like Wandering Trainers. There's just like on Wandering Trainers, just like a lot of emblems that help. Like if you get Arc, Ghostly, or Warden, or Faded, like there's just like a lot of angles. I actually think this comp's a lot better than it performs in the data, but I would not reroll Lux. I think maybe that's why it's performing really bad in the data. You just go into the vertical and play around Syndra and then cap on Lissandra and Set and play around like 4 Warden and stuff like that. So maybe that's why that's performing really poorly because you like reroll Lux is just not that great. Cool. Umbral, I think Umbral vertical can be good. The problem is you're just contesting for Kayn and Morgana. And that's just not very good to contest for those units with like a B tier build. You know what I mean? Porcelain Vertical, always going to be good. Like we already talked about earlier. Ink Shadow Vertical is fine. I just think Bruiser is a little bit more consistent and easier to play. Bruiser Silas. Yeah, Silas is a good carry when you have like well fed or like, yeah, in this case, the Koboko hero augments. I think that's pretty much it, guys. We kind of went through all of the comps that I actually think are good. So anyways, guys, appreciate you guys for coming in so far here. This was a long meta report because talking about forecast gets a little bit more complicated on how to play it. But I hope you guys learned a lot and good luck climbing on the patch. I'll see you on the next one.